Welcome back, everyone. Today we're setting aside maybe the popular images and really diving into angelology,
Yeah,
the study of angels, fallen angels, the whole unseen spiritual order.
exactly. And I think our main goal really should be to correct some very common and often unbiblical ideas people have.
Okay.
We need to be clear from the start. Angels aren't, your deceased relatives looking down. They aren't just vague forces. They're described as a distinct supernatural order of beings, powerful ones.
Right. So our mission today is to unpack what the sources actually say about their nature, their ability to make choices, and this surprisingly detailed hierarchy they seem to have.
Yeah, hierarchy is a good word. So defining them precisely. The sources point to them as created spiritual beings. They have intelligence, they have moral judgment, but generally no physical bodies. And their core function is right there in the name, really.
Right.
Both the Greek angelos and the Hebrew malach basically mean messenger.
And that created part you mentioned, that feels fundamental. They aren't eternal, right? They had a beginning.
Absolutely. They're finite. Colossians 1.1 sees is pretty explicit. All things were created, visible and invisible, thrones, dominions, rulers, authorities. Angels are part of that created reality.
Okay.
And what's really fascinating, I think, is this idea of moral judgment. The sources show they can tell right from wrong. And crucially, they are capable of sinning. You see references, like in the 2 Peter and Jude, to angels who did sin and faced consequences cast into darkness.
So they had actual free will then. It wasn't just about following orders.
It seems so. Real moral choice, which explains, how you get fallen angels in the first place.
That really changes the picture from just, perfectly good beings. It implies a lot more complexity. So if messenger is the general term, what about these different types or ranks we hear about, like an organizational chart?
That's a good way to put it. You definitely see specialized beings. Take the cherubim. They're consistently linked with God's presence, his glory. They act as guardians. Think guarding Eden or overshadowing the Ark of the Covenant. Some scholars see them as perhaps the highest rank.
Guardians. Okay, so definitely not the little chubby babies from paintings, more like serious gatekeepers.
Oh, absolutely. Nothing like the paintings. Then you have the seraphim. We read about them in Isaiah 6. Their focus seems to be purely worship, constantly declaring God's holiness. They have 6 wings, and the name itself, seraph, means burning. It suggests maybe something about purity or intense holiness.
Burning ones. Wow. Okay, and we also get specific names, don't we? Michael comes up a lot.
Yes, Michael is identified as the archangel. Daniel calls him a chief prince.
A prince? Like royalty? Or more like a general? Revelation pictures him leading armies against the dragon, right?
Exactly like a general. A celestial military commander. Very action-oriented.
Okay. And Gabriel, he seems different.
Gabriel's role is primarily defined as the messenger for major divine announcements. Think of his visits to Zechariah or to Mary in Luke's gospel. Key information broker, you might say.
Right. So this brings up something about their nature. Scale versus limits. You said they're finite. Like Gabriel had to travel to Nazareth.
Correct. They seem to be finite, meaning that they can only be in one place at one time.
But then the numbers. The sources talk about huge numbers of them. Seems like a contradiction.
It's kind of a paradox, isn't it? Finite individuals, but an almost uncountable host. To give you a sense of scale, remember Jesus in the garden. He mentions being able to call on more than 12 legions of angels.
12 legions. A Roman legion was, around 6,000 soldiers? So that's over 70,000 angels. Just like that.
Potentially, yes. Ready instantly. But even that massive number doesn't capture the total. Hebrews calls the heavenly assembly innumerable. And Revelation uses that phrase, myriads of myriads and thousands of thousands.
Which basically means a number too big to count, beyond human comprehension.
Exactly. It's the ancient way of saying uncountably vast.
Okay, so pulling this all together, we've moved way past simple ideas. We're talking about a vast, complex, created order. Beings with intelligence, moral choice, specific roles, different ranks.
An entire unseen reality, really, operating according to its own structure.
So we've unpacked the definitions, the hierarchy, the scale. What's the final thought for you, the listener, to take away from this?
Well, consider this last point from Hebrews. It describes these incredibly powerful, intelligent, moral beings, these vast hosts, as ministering spirits. And specifically, they are sent out to serve for the sake of those who are to inherit salvation.
Ministering spirits for us.
That's what the text says. So the provocative thought is, if these immense organized legions are constantly active, invisibly serving purposes related to salvation, what does that imply about the sheer scope of unseen activity happening around us, maybe even in your life right now?
Definitely something to think about.